Hello, friends. We are learning Python programming language through ISTE approved online Joy of Programming using Python workshop. Yesterday, we have covered the contents of Introduction to Python, Installation Python, Basics of Python, Controls and Conditions, Functions and few data types. Yesterday we have covered list at last, and today we want to start with list comprehension. So, what is list comprehension? Conscious way to build a list. It consists of square brackets consisting of an expression followed by a for clause. Then zero or more for or if clauses. The expressions can be anything, meaning you can put in all kinds of objects in the list. The result will be a new list resulting from evaluating the expression in the context of the for and if clauses which follow it. The list comprehension always returns a list. So don't forget that. So what is concise way? Let us see the example. We can understand that. Let's say one simple example, that is old underscore list is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We want to create new list. Here, before using any functions to any particular list which is not used before, we have to declare it something like this. What does this mean? This means that new underscore list is a list which we want to use after this line, and what is the value of it? Just now we have created the empty list. So this is what is required. Otherwise we will not be able to use any functions with this particular list. If it is used like this, there is a values are already given, you can use it. But directly you cannot use new list dot append. We need to give it as new underscore list is equal to empty list. Then only we will be able to use any functions for that particular list. So here we do have one old list which is having the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We want to create a new list based on this particular list. This is what we are applying is what we have already learned. So what we are doing? For I in old list, new list dot append I plus 2. So what we are doing is, whatever is our old list, in that we are adding 2. That is, we will be able to get the output as 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So what is equivalent list comprehension? You can see this many lines of code we have written to get this list. Now let us see the concise way of list comprehension. Let's see that. New underscore list is equal to x plus 2 for I. Can we use I here? No, as because here we have used x. So here also we have to use x. If we have used here I, we have to use I here. So take care of that. So x plus 2 for x in old underscore list. That's a very simple statement, and this is list comprehension. By doing this, it creates a list which is equivalent to that of the list we have created with the code. So, list comprehension makes our life very simple in the way that very small code we have to write. So, the same thing we got with the help of this. So, let us see its file, that is our Jupyter notebook file. It is here, old underscore list. So that is the simple way, and we can see the output. It is here. This is, we can run again. It was because this here, first of all, I have printed the list also. Let us run it so you can see the output. You can see the output. The new list which is created is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see this one, what it gives. It gives us the same output. So, it is list comprehension, a concise way to create a list. And that is why it is called list comprehension. Let us take one more example so we can have the idea. Now here what we are doing is y is equal to x multiplied by x. What we want? We want to do whatever number is given, we want to do x multiplied by x. So what is there for x? What is the range or what is the condition for it? Let's see that. For x in range of 1 to 11. So what values will it take? It will take the values from 1 to 10. That is 11 minus 1. So for all the values from 1 to 10, we will be doing x multiplied by x. And that way, it will return a list wherein we will be able to see the output as 1, 4, 9, 16 and so on. Now see one more example of list comprehension. What we are doing here, let's see that. Nums is equal to minus 1, 25, 9, minus 30, 5. Positive list we want to get. So how we can get it? That is x, that we have to write this list comprehension obviously inside square bracket. This is what you have already noticed, isn't it? It is because list comprehension always gives a list as return value. So here we are giving the condition, that is x for x in nums. So it will take all the values from these nums. What is the condition given? The condition given is if x is greater than 0. So from here, x greater than 0. So we can get the positive numbers. Very simple. So 25, 9 and 5 will be the output. If we want to get the negative numbers from the same list, what we can do? We will be doing it as negative is equal to, in the square brackets, will be providing x for x in nums if x is less than 0. So what we are writing inside the list comprehension, the syntax says that it does have for and if clauses. For say x in something that we can give, and after that we can give the conditions for it. So if x is less than 0, if x is greater than 0, we may be giving the conditions like x is less than 0 and x is greater than some value, that also we can give. we can give as many conditions as we want with and or all the things which we have used. So here we are getting, as x is less than 0, we can say we'll be getting the list, that is negative number list. Now what we want? A new example. Let's see what is there in that example. ABSP, that is equal to x comma ABS of x. This is a pair, isn't it? This is a pair which says first is x and second value is ABS of x. ABS is known to us, that is absolute value of x for x in nums. So what we will be getting? Say first is x. So it is minus 1 because it is taking from nums. So if the value is minus 1, ABS of x will be positive of it. So first is minus 1 to 1. For second, x is 25. So we'll be getting 25 and 25 only. It is because 25 is already positive. The third value is 9. So we'll be getting 9 comma 9. Fourth value is minus 30. So minus 30 comma ABS of minus 30. So we'll be getting it as 30. And the last value is 5 comma 5. So this way we are getting the absolute values in pair with its original value. Right? Now what we are doing? Next example, what we are doing? That's what we need to recognize. Say SQL list. Let's see what is that. It is a list wherein we do have a pair of x and y for x in 1 to 3. And what about y? It says that for y in this particular list. So is it only there? No, no, no. We have to see that. The condition is if x multiplied by x is equal to y. So what we need to check is the values which are there in this x list, we need to do x into x and check whether it is equal to any value in y or not. Those values will be set over here and we need to give the result as a pair of x and y where it matches this condition. Let's see. This is 1. For 1 you can say 1 into 1 is 1 only. Is it available in y? No, it is not. So it will not be considered in the result. For 2, you can say 2 into 2 is 4. Is it available in y? Yes. So 2 comma 4 is part of the result. The third value is 3. 3 into 3 is 9. Is it available in y? Yes. So we can say 3 comma 9 is also added in the result. So now should we consider more? Where to consider more? For x, we do have only these values. So we do not have any other x for which we can find the value in y. So this is the result, that is 2 comma 4 and 3 comma 9. Now for I in range of 4 comma 10 comma 2. This is a bit different and specifically put over here what it says. What we need to get here? 4 to 10 as a distance of 2. What we say is 4 to 10 to 10, but 10 is not included and at the distance of 2. We are printing that, that is we will be getting 468. This is just to remind you about for loop where you can have the distance of 2 or whatever you want. Now say one more example of list comprehension. Z is equal to x multiply by x. So we'll be getting the result of x square for what x? For x in the range of 1 to 5. If x remainder 2 is equal to 0. So for 1, can we get remainder 2 is equal to 0? No, we cannot. For 2, 2 remainder 2 is equal to 0. So for that 2, we will be doing x multiply by x. So we'll be getting the result as 4. Then with 3, can we get 3 remainder 2 is equal to 0? No, we cannot. So we'll check for 4. So 4 remainder 2 will be equal to 0. So we will be calculating 4 multiplied by 4. And the result we will get is 16. One more example. Comprehension with range. We have seen, but here, what is that? Z is equal to x multiplied by y. So we need to give two values, one for y, one for x. So for y in range of 3 to 1, reverse. Yes, it is because the distance given is minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is minus 2. 2 minus 1 will be 1. So this way it is given that the distance is minus 1. And for x in range 1 to 4. So what we need to do is, what answer we will be getting is what? We want to get x multiplied by y. So let us run this and see the output as 3, 6, 9, 2, 4 and 6. You can try it. Now generators. What is that? These examples we have seen in Jupyter Notebook. Generator expressions are somewhat similar to list comprehensions. It does not construct list object. List comprehension always create list object, whereas generator does not construct list object. तो क्या करता है? Instead of creating a list and keeping the whole sequence in the memory, the generator generates the next element in demand. When normal function with a written statement is called, it terminates whenever it gets a written statement. But a function with a yield statement saves the state of the function and can be picked up from the same state next time the function is called. The generator expression allows us to create a generator without the yield keyword. So, what is the difference between list and generator? Generator is having parentheses instead of square brackets, because square brackets means a list. List comprehension gives list, but generator doesn't. So generator uses parentheses. So here is one simple example of list comprehension. For the same thing, we will see the generator. So let's see. List comprehension is equal to in square bracket because it is going to give us a list. So I for I in range 11 if I remainder 2 is equal to 0. So what we will get? We will get it as 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. What if we are writing in parenthesis? That is the generator expression. So, if we do something like this, what it prints? If I am trying to print this generator expression, it gives me generator object at some memory location. So how to print the values which we have generated with the help of this generator? For that, we need to iterate over the generator. That is, for I in generator expression, print I, and if you want some end condition, you can give that. We will get the output as 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. We will not get the list, right? So let's see that. Here is a list and this is our generator expression. This is the generator expression iteration. So we are getting the output as 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. Now we want to see the difference, and where we see that generator only considers few things. It does not store whole list in the memory. So that we can get with the help of the size of that object. So what to do to get the size of it? For that, we do have one library available or one module available in Python, that is sys. We can use from sys module, we want to import the function that is get size of. If we write only import sys, it means it will consider whole library. But what we are doing is we just want to use only one function. So we are directly importing that function with the help of from sys import get size of. It means that from sys module we are importing get size of function. So here comprehension is there and generator is also there. The same expression is written, that is I for I in range of 10,000. Here for generator also it is the same. Now let's see the size of comprehension and let's see the size of generator. When we see the size of comprehension, it is 87624. Too big. And what about Y? That is generator. It only has 120. So that is simple in our memory. So if you are having your application which is memory concentrate, you should use generator. Now, next thing which we want to learn is sets. So, set is another type of sequence objects. It is unordered data set. It eliminates duplicate entries. Remember this thing, whenever it is being asked that some list or something is given to you, and if you want to remove duplicate entries from it, you just have to convert that particular list or anything to set, so it will remove, it will eliminate the duplicate entries from it, because set only considers unique elements. So how we can define set in Python? That is, S is equal to in curly braces 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 3 comma 4. You can see just now ma'am said it is only having unique entries. So how can it be having 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 3 comma 4? 3 is available twice. But that is a value I am giving. What it considers? If I print as, that is our set, it gives us the output as 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has removed the duplicate entries. Now, as I'm talking of this set here, let me remind you, if it is list, we will be writing this comma separated values inside the square brackets. If we are having tuple, we are writing the list, that is comma separated value inside what? Parenthesis. And here it is a set which is there inside the curly braces. So take care of it. Let's see the things in our Jupyter notebook. Now this, we can see the output which we are getting is 1, 2, 3, 4. It has removed the duplicate element, isn't it? Now we want to check for in operator. We want to check whether this particular element is available in this set or not, in this list or not, in this tuple or not, in this string or not. We can use the operator, that is in operator. Basket is equal to, say, apple, banana, apple, pear, orange, banana. Now here you can say banana is available twice. Apple is also available twice. But it is a list. It is because it is written inside the square bracket. Now what we are doing is we are having fruits is equal to set of basket. So what it does? It removes all the duplicate elements and will give us the unique elements. So if we try to print the fruits, what we will be getting? That is orange, pear, banana and apple. So what is the type of these fruits? It is the class set. Why set? Because first was basket, that was a list, but we have converted that to set. So now what we are doing? We are checking for whether apple is there in fruits or not. So in single quote, we are writing the value whichever we are having inside the fruits set. So we are checking if apple in fruits, print true as false. If mango is there in fruits, print true as false. Apple, it is here in the fruits. It is here. Yes, here it is. It is there. Mango is there? No, it is not there. So, for this first one, we will be getting true. And for second one, we will be getting false. It is very simple. Now, for set operations, we have seen that for set operations, we do have intersection, difference, union. All these operations we can do on sets. So, let us see that. A is equal to set of A, C, A, D, S. B is a set of I, N, S, T, I, T, U, T, E. That means set A has elements, that is A, C, A, D, S. and B has the element that is I N S T I T U T E. Now if I print A and B, let us run this cell. You can see the sets A and B are like one character and removing the duplicates. Now we want to see the difference. So we will do A minus B. Directly the operations are available. So let us run that. So we are getting it as D, A and C. We just have to do the difference. What is available here? S. Is it available in B? Yes, it is there. So it is being removed. D. D is there in B. No, it is not there. So it will remain as it is. A is there. A is not there. So A is there in the result. And C, whether it is there in B? No, it is not there. So we will be getting the result as A, B and C. Now we want to see A yog B. That is, in our mathematical term, we see it as A yog B. In our Python terms, we will be saying it as A or B. So we have to consider all the elements of A and B. But we have to remove the duplicates. So whatever all elements are there in A and B, all of them are coming as a result. Then after we want to find A and B. So whatever is common between set A and B, that is part of this A and B. So whatever is common, that will be getting as the result. Symmetric difference. Symmetric difference is A or B, that is A hat B. So how we can get it? That is very simple. We are writing A hat B. So we'll be getting the result which is over here. So all the operations like A minus B, that is a simple difference. A yog B is union. A and B, that is intersection. And A hat B is symmetric difference. So here one simple example is given. Duplicate removal from a list. So what we should do, a list is given, print a particular list, that is we can see the result. After that S is equal to set of list 1. So all the duplicates are being removed from the list, but it is converted to set. So this S is of type set. What we want is, we want to remove the duplicate from a list. So duplicates are removed, but the result must be list. So we need to convert that to list again. So list 1 is equal to list of S. So we are converting this set S to list, and we will be getting the result that is also a list. So here one more example is there. Snacks is equal to set. Set of what? Of burger, fries, pizza. मुंह में पानी आ गया. Fries, toast, peanuts, fries, pizza. Many times the things are being given, but we have taken it as set. So it will remove the duplicate elements. Now what we do? We are printing and checking whether fries is there in snacks or not. Fries is there in snacks? Yes, it is there. Then after we need to check pizza is there in the snacks or not? Yes, it is also there. So you can say, what you can say? Whether this condition which was true, this condition which was also true, but we are checking true is greater than true. Is it possible? No. So it returns the result that is false. So you can see the explanation for that. Say when we are checking for print fries in snacks, that returns true, and print pizza in snacks, that is also true. And then after we are having true is greater than true. Is it possible? No way. So we are getting it as false. Now if we want to find the difference of strings, तो क्या करें? तो we know that difference operation is possible for set. So what we will do? We will convert strings to sets and then after we will take the difference. Very simple. So here once list is given, that list we are converting to set, that is S1. Again one more list is there with us, that also we are converting to set. So we are having S1 and S2 as set. They are the sets which are converted from the list. So what we can do is we will find S1 minus S2. Now what this will return us? This will return us the set only. If you want to get it as a list again, what we have to do? We have to convert this result to list. It depends on whatever is required in your application. Now, if we want to pass set to a function, what we need to do? Say def print set and we are passing the argument for I in S, print I. We are iterating the set and we are printing one by one element of it. So what we do is print set in curly braces will be passing the list of elements separated by comma. So that's what we have passed to this particular function and we'll be getting the output as 1, 2 and 3. Now, we want to know a new thing, that is dictionary. What is dictionary? Are we going to have the dictionary of any particular university? Are we going to find the meanings from that? No, no, no. This is the dictionary where we do have key and value pairs. We have seen these examples. So now we want to know about the dictionary. Dictionary. So how to relate the dictionary with list or tuple or set or whatever things are there. So let us compare the dictionary with list. So we can have the idea that what dictionary is having, what features it does have. Let's see the difference so we can understand that very easily. Feature wise difference we will see. So it will make our life very simple. Ordered, unordered. List is ordered. They maintain the order in which elements are inserted. Dictionary is unordered. Ordering is not guaranteed. How? Assignment is done how? Comma separated values in square brackets. That is, say list 1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For list 2 also you can say that in double quotes comma double quotes hash. For dictionary, what is that? Comma separated, but key colon value is there inside curly braces. For set also we were having the curly braces. For dictionary also we are having the curly braces. But the difference is For set, we only have comma separated values. Here, yes, we do have comma separated values, but we actually are having key and value pairs. They are separated with the comma. So we can see here, say DICT1, that is dictionary 1 is equal to, in curly braces, say I want to give double quotes name, that is I want to provide name and its value as ami. So to give the difference or to provide, it is key and this is value. We need to provide the colon in between, comma. So I'll be giving the second value. So that is in double quotes nationality colon Indian. So does it mean everywhere I should provide this double quotes? No. It is for string. Let's say that for dictionary 2, we can give it as 0 colon ami, 1 colon ash. So it depends on whatever value we are giving. And is it required that it should have only integer as key? No way. It can have string, it can have any other also. So how we are accessing it? We can access it using the index, that is list 1 of 0, list 2 of 1. This way we can use. So how it is being accessed here for dictionary? It uses it as dict1 of name, that is in square bracket only we are providing the key. Here also in the square bracket we are providing key. So the key is 0. Here the keys are 0 and 1. When to use? It should be used when an ordered collection of items is required. What do you mean by ordered collection? It is said that the order in which the elements are in the same order, we should use the list. But if we want to use something like key and value pairs, unique keys are there. Unique keys and their values if we require, then we should use dictionary. So how to print that? If I want to print whole list, I can print it as print list 1. If I want to print it as some that all the elements of list we are printing, that slices we have seen in list. Now for dictionary we can print it as print dict1. What output it gives? Name colon ash, nationality colon Indian. Now you will say this dict1, you can see here it is Omi and here it is ash. It is one more example. One thing is, say for this particular thing only if we are printing, are we going to get the double quotes? Are we going to get the single quotes? See, no need to worry about anything. In Python, double quotes or single quote, all are same. They are strings. So no need to worry. This is for second other example. So you are getting it as single quote. Otherwise too, it is same for us because single quote and double quote can be used for strings. How to iterate? We can iterate list using for I in range of len of list. Length, right? So len of list 1 and after that we can say print list 1 of I. Here no need to forget the indentation. This is just a table, so it shows something like this. For I in dict1.keys, if we want to get all the keys of dictionary, we can use a function that is keys And after that, we can print dict1 of that I, that is the keys which we are taking one by one. If we want to get the key and value pairs, we can say for key comma value in dict1 dot items, and then after we can print key and value pairs. For indexing, lists have positive and negative list indexing. We know that if we are giving it as one list, one of one, it means it is taking the one number index of the list. If we are giving negative one, then it is taking last character or last element of that list. But here, keys are used only as the indexes. So there is nothing like positive and negative. How to remove the item? For removing the item, we can say list1 dot remove 1. If one item is there in the list, it will be removed. List1 dot pop, it means that it will remove the first item. First item can be anything. It removes the first item by using the pop. So what if we want to do something like this? For dictionary, we have to use del dict1 of name, or otherwise we can do dict1 dot pop and in single quote name. If we want to sort the list, we have to use list1 dot sort. So the list will be sorted, and if we want to sort the dictionary, then how to sort it? It does have the keys and values too. So should we sort it according to keys, or should we sort it according to values? See, it depends on you. It depends on your application. So if we want to sort according to keys, we should use sorted dict1 dot keys. And if you want to sort it according to values, we should use it as sorted dict1 dot values. So what it says? It is unordered set of key column value pairs with the requirement that the keys are unique and immutable. Keys and values are the functions to extract keys and values of the dictionary object. Key and values pairs are there in the curly braces. So now we want to see the examples of it. Let us see that in the Jupyter Notebook file. So here is, we have given dict1 is equal to name colon value, that is name is Ami, designation is Associate Prof, institute is CKPCET, and one more is I have given name is Abhay. What is this? What is this? Name is Ami, and at last name is Abhay. So what should we consider? Should we consider name as Ami or name as Abhay? Let us run this and can have the idea. What it says? It says designation as Associate Prof, institute as CKPCET, oh, 8 seconds. Dict1. There was syntax problem. Other dictionary was given. Now let's see. Dict is name Abhay. I have given name as Ami and now it is giving me name as Abhay. What is wrong with it? It is not wrong. It is because here I have given name as Ami, and the second value also I have given, that is name is Abhay. So it replaces with the second value. So we are getting it as name Abhay, designation Associate Prof, Institute CKPCET. Now what we are doing? I'm trying to print dict1 of name. So it is Abhay dict1 dot keys. So whatever are the keys, name, then designation, then institute. So that's what we are getting. It is a list, right? It is a list. If we want to get all values, we will be using it as dict1 dot values, and we can say we are getting the values. If we want to get all values as key and value pairs, we should use a function that is items. Items. If we want to create empty dictionary, what we should do is dict1 is equal to empty braces. Print dict1 will give us the empty braces only, and if we print type of this one, it will give us the class dict. Now say few directory, no. Few dictionary operations we want to know. So say dict1 is equal to name, AMI, designation, associate prof, institute is equal to CKPCET, and name is equal to Abhay. So 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters are there. So length of this dictionary is 4. No. Why? Because it is having name is equal to Ami and name is equal to Abhay. Two values are there. It is not going to contain two values because it does have unique key and its value also will be unique. So here it is not going to consider two values, but it will only consider one value, and that Ami will be replaced with Abhay. So now if I want to find the length of this dictionary using len, I'll be able to get the result as 3 because name is Abhay, then designation is associate prof, and institute is equal to CKPCET. If you want to get the keys, very simple function we have used, that is keys. We'll be getting the keys over here. If we are getting dict1 dot values, we'll be getting the values. Now, we want to use in operator for dictionary. So, that is, we are trying to check whether the key is available in dictionary or not. For that, we can say name in dictionary 1. So name is the key which is available in dictionary 1. So it will return true. Print key available, comma, dictionary 1 dot get Naam and Ruchi. What we want is, we want to get the name. So what we do is, we will be getting the dictionary 1 dot get, and the result will be Ruchi. Whether it is available or not, that's what we want to check. If the key is not available, we can say dictionary 1 dot get name and Ruchi. What we say? It is actually Abhay. It is not having Ruchi. So here what we are doing is, we are changing the dictionary element. For name, we are giving other value. So if we try to print it, we will be getting that. After that, if we delete that is, we are removing the element of dict1 with the key as name. If we are trying to print that, what we will get? We will not get the result which has the key as name. We can see here, it does have designation, it does have the institute, it has removed the name key from the dictionary. Now if we want to iterate the dictionary, for I in dictionary 1, print key and its value. So what we do is, key is I, which we have already taken here, and for value we will be taking it as dict1 of I. Del dict, this is required to run this particular next program. It is because it was already used. Airport is equal to dict. Dict will convert whatever is given here to dictionary. If we want to convert a list to set, we have to use set. Inside that, we need to provide list. If we want to convert set to list, we have to use it as list. Inside that, whatever values you want to provide. Same way, if we want to convert something which is given to us to dictionary, we have to consider it as dict inside. This is first list and this is second list. So what it does? For that, it considers the first one as key, the second element as value, again the first element as key and the second element as value. Now say we are having Bob is equal to dictionary. What we are giving here? We are giving it as name is equal to Bob, age is equal to something, pay is equal to something, job is equal to something. What we are doing is, for this, we are converting it to dictionary. So, we'll be getting it in the dictionary format, that is name colon Bob, age colon 42, pay colon 10,000 and job colon Dave. So this way also you can make the dictionary. Provide the value with name equal to value pair and use the function that is dict. So it will convert the name is equal to value pair to dictionary. Now we want to sort the dictionary. For that, the function we use is sorted, and the name of our dictionary dot keys. This is also one more way to create the dictionary. You can say that first of all we have created empty dictionary. See, if you are using tuple or list or dictionary or anything and we want to give some values to it, we must be having at least the empty value available. So key underscore value is equal to empty dictionary. If it is list, we have to take it as 2 square brackets, that is empty list. After that, we can provide this values. So we can say key value, that is the dictionary name of 2 is 56. What does this mean? It means that 2 is the key and 56 is the value. So here you can say for this dictionary we have 2, 1, 5, 4, 6 and 3 are the keys, and 56, 2, 12, 24, 18 and 323 are the values. So we can get it sorted by using the sorted function. Now if you want to pass the dictionary to a function, how to do that? That is with the help of def, say print dictionary and dc colon. We are printing all the elements of the dictionary, that is with the help of iterating the dictionary. For I in dc.keys, we are getting the keys. After that, what we are doing is, we are printing its key over here and we want to print the value. So for that, we are taking it as dc of I. So how to call it? That is, here one dictionary is given, say 1 colon 11. Here there is nothing like double quotes. It is because here we have taken key and value both as integer. So no need to give single quote or double quote. Here directly we are taking it as 1 colon 11, 2 colon 22, 3 colon 33. Print dictionary, we are calling the function which we have defined and passing this dictionary. So we'll be getting the output as 1 colon 11, 2 colon 22 and 3 colon 33. Now we want to know about higher order functions. This example we have already seen using Jupyter Notebook. So, what we say about higher order functions? In Python, functions are first class objects. There is no distinction between data and functions. Oh, functions have types. Functions can be passed as arguments. Functions can be returned. Functions can be members of sequences. Oh, something different. So let's see the example and can have the idea. Pass the function as argument because this is mostly used. What we say. See, we are having the function that is summation. It does have two values. One is n and second is f. Now what is this f? F is function name. Function name, that means f function should be available here? No. Whatever function name you want to give, you can provide here. The condition is that function should be defined in your program. Let me show you. Sum is equal to 0 for I in range of 1 to n plus 1. This is the definition of this summation function. What we are doing is sum is equal to sum plus f of 5. Now what is this f? This f can be the function that is identity. It can be square. It can be cube. So is it going to consider identity or square or cube or all? That we need to provide when we are calling. Wait a moment. So that we should use with the help of summation. That is, we are calling the summation function wherein the first value is n. So we are providing it as 10. But then the second one, that is the function name, we are passing as an argument to this function. So for the first one, we are considering identity. For second one, we are considering square. And for third one, we are considering cube. So how it is running? Let's see this. Summation 10. So first parameter is 10 and second parameter is identity. That means it is going to call the identity function. Let's see that. Let's see here. If it is identity, what will happen? Here it says the function is identity, but sum is equal to 0 for I in range of 1 to n plus 1. So 1 to 10 plus 1 is 11, right? So it will iterate from 1 to 10 actually, because n plus 1 is exclusive. So after that, sum is equal to sum plus f of 5. F is identity. So now, what is there in identity? It simply considers whatever x is given, the same thing is being written. So first of all, sum is equal to 0 and we have passed the value as 1 to the identity function. So f of 1 will return 1. So this will be sum is equal to 0 plus 1. Second time it will take the value of 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, up to 10. So we can say we will be getting the result of this as the summation of 1 plus 2 plus 3 2 plus 10. So that we will give the sum as 55. Now what about the second one? It is also same way. That is, we are providing the function name, that is square, which is defined over here as return x multiplied by x. So whatever value we are passing from here, that is 1, then 1 raised to 1, 2, that means 2 into 2 because it is square, 3 into 3, 4 into 4, 5 into 5, and it will do the summation of them. So we'll be getting the result as this one. And same way for cube, that is 1 raised to x multiply 3 is 1, x raised to 3. So if 1 is given, 1 raised to 3, 2 raised to 3, 3 raised to 3. That way we are calculating cubes and we are doing summation in the summation function. So summations of all cubes, and that we will get as a result. Now the lambda function, what is that? Lambda function, to create anonymous function. Identity, square, cube, these are the function names. But I do not want to give any function name. So it is anonymous. For that, we should use the lambda function. So what is the syntax of it? That is lambda param1, param2, comma, up to whatever parameter you want to give, colon, its body is that. Very simply, we can provide any function definition with lambda, that is anonymous function. Let's see the example of it. So what is here? Definition sum n comma f. The same summation function is written here, which was considered for identity, square, and cube. Same function is there. But here instead of giving identity, then square, then cube as the function name, but here we have provided the anonymous function and the definition also is provided here. So what we do is, here identity function in the form of lambda is defined as lambda x colon x, lambda x colon x into x. That means for each x, it considers the definition, that is x multiplied by x. For cube function, equivalent lambda function is lambda x colon x into x into x. So the same result which we got with the help of these three functions defined with the names of identity, square, and cube, the same thing, same result we can get with the help of lambda functions defined over here. This is for identity, this is for square, and this is for cube. Now, we want to see some examples. So, what is that? Def, print app, f, comma, access. For I in access, print f of 5. And is equal to percentage. This we are using, it is because we do not want to have backslash n for print, but we want to continue on the same line. So, what is that? Def double. One more function is given to us, that is double, and its definition says that it returns x plus x. Now what we do is print app double comma square bracket 1 comma 2 comma 3, that is the list. Now what is the case? For the first we have provided the function name. So that is f here. So for this f of I we need to consider double of I. And for this access it is a list, that is 1 comma 2 comma 3. So now what we do? For I in access, that is 1 comma 2 comma 3, one by one value we are taking. For f of I, it will call from here. 1 is there, so 1 plus 1, so it will return 2. For 2, it will do 2 plus 2, so 4 will return. And for 3, it will return 3 plus 3, that is 6. And we'll be getting the output as 2%, 4%, 6%. It is because we have given and is equal to percentage. Now, here the example is with the lambda function. What it says? It also says something like x plus x. Lambda is anonymous function. This is x. But what it returns, its definition says that it is x plus x. But the value given to it is double quotes str. So what it will consider? It will take one character of this string and it will double that. That is concatenate that. So s plus s, then t plus t, then r plus r. So that's what we are printing. As over here, we haven't provided any new line, any colon, any percentage. For each result, we can say that all of them are combined here in the single line. Now, W is equal to lambda xs comma ys. That means we do have two parameters. Now what is the definition? Definition says that list x plus y for x in xs, y in ys, and that will be from 1 comma 2 and 9 comma 11. So what we need to do is 1 plus 9, we can say the result here. Then what to do? 1 plus 11, 2 plus 9 and 2 plus 11. Now one more function is there, lambda function, which says x plus x, but we need to consider say 1 comma 2 and 3 comma 4. So what we do is 1 comma 2 because it is x plus x. Then 3 comma 4 and 3 comma 4. That is the concatenation we have done here. One more example which says double x plus x. That means double will return x plus x, and we are providing a value as 1 colon 1, 2 colon 4. It is a dictionary we have provided here, and when we pass it one by one for I in something we are taking, it will consider the keys of the dictionary. So what it will do? For 1, it will consider 1 plus 1. For second key is 2, so it will consider 2 plus 2. So we'll be getting 4. And for third, it will consider 3. And the value we will be getting is 3 plus 3, 6. Here is one algorithm given. You can see it yourself later. Now the next thing which we want to start is file IO. These examples we have already seen, high order functions, wherein we can provide function name as argument, as well as we can provide anonymous function, that is the lambda function. Now we want to know the file I/O. Files are persistent storage operations. They are open, close, read, write. Python treat files as sequence of files. So sequence operations work for the data from files. So how to open and close the files? The function is open. The arguments are file name and mode. The mode can be, say, read, write, append. Then what we say for W and A options, if the file is not available, it will create the file in the same directory wherein our program is running. So that you need to take care. Now say all the options are given. Here few examples of modes were there. So it is R. R is read. RB is in binary format we are reading. Then R plus is both reading and writing. RB plus. W is write. WB is binary mode writing. W plus is for both read and write. A is there for append. AB plus is for append and reading in binary format. So now here is one simple example of file write. So what we do? Test is equal to open test.txt and W, that is in write mode we want to open the file. Now what we are doing is test.write lines and we are giving it as hello and welcome to the world of computers. Test.write. Hello friends. Test.write. Rushi issue. Test.close. So what it creates? The content of the file, that is test.txt. We said for W and A, if the file is not available, it creates the file. So if the test.txt is not available in the current directory, it will create and it will write this contents in the file. So we'll be able to see it as the content of the file as this one. Now, where is this file for Jupyter Notebook? It is here in the directory where it is being installed. Say for me, it is there in C:users AMI. Here I do have those files, that is test.txt. Now if you want to read that, test is equal to open test.txt and read mode. So if I want to read the lines, what I do is for line in test, print line and is equal to nothing. So test.close, we are closing the file. Here you can see that and is equal to single quotes. That means nothing is there in it. I mean, at and we do not want to add anything. So it should be like all the output is coming together. Like say if we do have the output as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then in one line only it should print like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But as we are reading the lines from the file, that is test.txt, here we will be able to see line by line output. It is because we have read the line. So \n is already considered in the line. So though we have written and as nothing, the new line is added. It is because we have backslash n considered in the line reading from the file. Now, if you want to append to a particular file, what do we do? Are we appending to the file? No. If we want to append a file, we have to use the option that is R. Here, what sort of append operation we want to do? That is to the list, not to the file. So what actually we are doing is, say we want to use the list that is Pn and Pc. So as we know, we should have the empty list first created, then only we will be able to use it. For I in Fn, we are reading the file pn.append I of :-1. That means we are ignoring the backslash n. We are not reading the last character. And append.close. So all the lines we are reading and we are appending into list. Say we do have one more file available and we are doing the same, that is for I in Fc, pc.append is equal to ignore the backslash n and print it. Now, what we want to get? If we want to print that, we should know the content of our files. So, the file is first tennisplayers.txt. So, we can say tennisplayers.txt. It does have two parameters, that is Steffi and Martina. And for say tennis countries, we do have India and England. So, here we are getting without any backslash n. So, we do have a list wherein it does considers all the lines reading from the file, that is tennisplayers.txt, and adding in the list. Actually not adding, we can say it is appending in the list. So, there is no backslash n in this. After that, we can say we have read from the tennis countries. So, that is also a list. Now, here I have used this as 3 quotes. It is actually called the doc string, but if you use it, you can ignore also, or for multiple line comment, we can use it. If you want to get the doc string, it is documentation string of a particular function, we can use this 3 quotes. This can be single, 3 quotes, or otherwise double, but 3 times. So the way it starts, the way it should end. So here is one more example of the same. Now we want to know one more operation, that is seek operation. Say we do have the file that is seek1.txt. What are the contents in it? That is first line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line. Now what we do? F is equal to open seek1.txt and we are reading in the read mode f.seek4. That means it is now there at 4 characters passed. Let's say that 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 characters it has passed. Now if we try to read the file and print it, we will be able to get it as T line, second line, third line, all the things we will be able to read, but this first 4 characters it has skipped. It has gone to the position that is after this 4. If we want to append it, we have to open the file in the append mode, and then after we will be using f4.write and we will be able to append. After that we need to close it. Always take care of closing the file It is because files are the system properties, and those must be closed as soon as possible to increase the concurrency. So now the next topic which we want to learn is exceptions. File programs we have seen. Now we want to know the exceptions. So even if a statement or expression is syntactically correct, it may cause an error when an attempt is made to execute it. Errors detected during execution are called exceptions and are not unconditionally fatal. Now, always for exception handling, we used to take the example of 10 by 0. If you know the Java language, people are starting with such example only where we can say it is divide by 0 error. So, if something like this is there, it causes 0 division error. Exceptions come with different types, and the type is printed as part of the message. When the exception occurs, we can see the exception type and then after whatever is required in the message. So the examples are zero division error, name error, type error, and many more are there. Let's see the example so we can have the idea. Say value error when it comes and how to handle that. To handle the exception, we have try, catch. Try and catch in Java. So what is there in Python? Here we do have try and accept. We need to provide the exception name here. So what we can do? Let's see. While true, so infinite loop is there. Try colon x is equal to integer of input. Please enter a number and break. All of us know that if we are giving a string or say if we are giving 5.5, it is not integer, so it will not be converted. So for this, it will give the error. So what sort of error it gives? It gives the error. Actually, it is not error, it is exception, and that is value error. So whichever code can generate the exception that we need to write inside the try block. So here what we are doing is try colon this x is equal to whatever statement is that can generate the exception. So we have written it inside the try block. Then we do have the break. After that, say except value error and we are giving the message. So if in case we have entered the value as 5.5, it will give us the message that is, oops, that was no valid number. Try again. It is not giving the message as value error. Why? It is because we have already handled the exception using except value error. If you haven't written try catch and if you try to run this program and you are giving the input as 5.5, it will give the error and say the value is not proper and value error. Now say if we want to raise the exception. That is something like throw in Java. If we want to raise the exception, we have to use raise and then after whatever is the exception name. So say we want to have the keyboard interrupt, we should use raise exception. But that code also must be written inside try. Here, one more term appears is finally. Now, what is this? Actually, when we want to handle the exception, we should use it as try, accept, and finally. What is that? Try is a block wherein you should write the code which can generate the exception. Accept an exception name so we can handle the exception. So the code which handles the exception that we should write inside accept, and finally, irrespective of whether the exception is generated or not, we can call that code and this what is over here. For example, here try is that this is being raised and after that it says goodbye world. Now we can see that we are raising the interrupt. We are raising the exception. So it will give you the messages here, but, irrespective of whether the exception is generated or not, finally will be called. So irrespective of whether you have raised the exception or your code has generated the exception, finally block will be executed and goodbye world will be printed. So where to use this finally? This finally we should use when we are using database or a file like resources. तो उससे क्या होगा? File and database are the system resources and we should close them as soon as the work is over. If the file reading error, that is IO error occurs or any database read problem occurs, then it will not be closed. If it is not closed, then after some time, operating system itself checks whether it is available or not. If it is not available and if the process that was reading it is also not available, what it does? It closes the file automatically. But what? This much time is wasted. So we should close it as soon as the work is over. So if any problem occurs, we should handle that using try, accept, and if anything happens, whatever happens, but we should close it inside the finally. So here is one more example for IO error, that is if file is readable or not, the path which we are giving is readable or not for us. If we are giving /target.txt, that directory is not under our access control, then we can say that it will generate the exception, that is IO error. Say for example in Ubuntu, I am having my login as Ami and I am trying to read the file which is there in /root. So I will not be able to access it. So for that, it will give me exception, that is IO error. If you want to handle the exception, you can do something like this, that is accept, or otherwise if you want to do something, that is also possible over here, and after that we should close it. So this is zero division error, value error. We know that if the input is not proper, for say integer, we will be getting the value error. If it is divided by 0, we will be getting this exception. So we can say here we have used try, accept value error, accept zero division error, else, and then after finally. That is The code which can generate the exception that we are writing inside try. Specific exception, if we want to consider, if we want to handle, we should use except that exception name. You can use multiple exceptions because whatever code you have written, that may be generating many exceptions. So you can say that it can be this one exception, it can be the second exception. So we can write as many except as possible. Depends on what code you have written inside the try. After that we can say else, and then we do have the finally. Break was used in one example. It is because that application was considering for loop, which I haven't shown you. So break is not part of try, but it was for a specific example. So try, accept. If we do not know what is the exception, we can use it as accept also. So try, accept, else, finally. So that is all about the exception. Yes, one thing, that is assert. For assert, we have seen yesterday that it gives us the exception, that is SSN error. So we can use it as try, and the code which can generate the exception of SSN error that we have written inside the try block. After that, accept SSN error. If SSN error is there, it will print this, or otherwise we want to do something like this, and we can say some more for the example. The same thing, that is here it was hello, here it is goodbye. The same example which we have taken for assert, the same thing is over here. Now this is one example of join. If we want to consider odd even index for list, this I have given because it is interesting example. Interesting in the way that if it is being given as hacker and rank, what do we want to get is, say H, then C, then E, then we can say A, K. That means we want to print odd number of, we want to print even number of characters first, and then after odd number of characters. So what we are doing for that? L of odd. We want to get the odd numbers that will join as list which is starting from 1 colon colon 2. For even we are giving as 0 colon colon 2, and we will be getting the output as odd number, odd index characters, and even numbers characters separated by space. This is even number and this is odd number. So now we want to start with object-oriented programming using Python. So we want to know about class definition, initializing class member, string representation of object, special methods, constructor and destructor, class with constructor, getter and setter methods, inheritance, switch case, public, private, protected. This is what we want to know about object-oriented programming using Python. So let us start with object-oriented programming characteristics. What it says, a class is a blueprint of something. Object is instance of class. Access modifiers or access specifiers, they are public, private, protected. Abstraction, that is hiding details at hardware level. Encapsulation, it is hiding data from being accessed or accessed with specific mode of only. Inheritance is extending the properties of a class. Polymorphism, that is the ability to leverage the same interface for different underlying forms such as data types or classes. Polymorphism allows for flexibility and loose coupling so that code can be extended and easily maintained over time. Class is itself an object of type. Type is object type. Class definition creates an object. Class methods have type, method underscore descriptor. What are the operations for the class? Create instance of a class, which is called the instantiation. How to have the object or instance of a class? That is, say this is the object name. In C++ or in Java, we used to have something like, what is the class name? Suppose man is class. So man object name is equal to new man. But here it is simple. So how we are taking it? We are taking it as, say, object name is equal to whatever is the class name and two parentheses. That's all. Dot operator is used to access attributes and methods. It is same as in other languages. Constructor is defined as def underscore underscore. Two underscores are there in it. Underscore underscore self and whatever parameters you want to pass. Destructor is defined as def space underscore underscore del underscore underscore and self. Self is required in each method of class. This we were not using before. Whenever we were using def and any definition of function, we haven't used anything like self. We have only provided the parameters. They are the simple functions. But if we want that they are the functions of classes, then we should use them as the first parameter as self. So whether the constructor or destructor is there or not, we should have the self as one parameter. Self represents the current object, the way we are using this. In other languages, we can say here it is self. Class data without any underscore is public. This we need to take care. It is because in other languages also we need to consider public, private, protected. So class data without any underscore is public. To make any instance variable or any method protected, we need to add single underscore to it. We know that when it is protected, it will be accessible in the subclass. To make the instance variable private, we need to add two underscore as the prefix. Now, what is there in the class definition? It is very simple. Let's see that. Here is the class definition of, say, calculator. So we need to write it as class. It is in small. Whatever class name we want. Say calculator. After that, what we are doing is def add self number 1, comma number 2. This is as such not required. We can write it without that also. So let us say that class calculator colon def add self. Self is must. It is because we want to say that this method is part of this class. Comma number 1, comma number 2. So number 1 and number 2 are the parameters of this particular function. Now to make the object of this class, what we do is OB is equal to calculator. No need to give it as something like new or left hand side we should provide the class name. Nothing like that is required. It makes our life very simple. So what we do is if we want to call the method of this calculator, we have to call it as ob.add and providing parameters. You can say here we do have three things: self, number 1 and number 2. And here we are only providing 2 parameters. Is it a mistake? No. Self is required. It is because we want to say that it is a function, it is a method of this class. So that is there. After that, number 1 comma number 2, they are the parameters which are passed to this function. So number 1 is 6, number 2 is 4. So what it returns? Return number 1 plus number 2. So we'll get the answer as 10. So if you want to initialize the class members in a particular method, let's see that. Say we are taking class A. You can say A is equal to 100, so it is a member of this class, and after that we will be able to use it. It is nothing like that. We need to give it as self.a. If it is being defined as self.a, it means it is the member of this class. Here we haven't provided any underscore. That means it is public variable. So we are defining the first method. So def first parameter must be self. Second is whatever parameters we want to give. So here what we do is self dot a is equal to a. So for this one, that is for the current object, we are giving the value, that is self dot a is equal to a. A is whatever value is being provided here. The way we are doing this dot a is equal to a in Java, print a and print b. So we are able to print this a and this b. If we want to print this value, that is self.a, here both are having same value, then we should use it as self.a if we want to print the class member. Now here what we are doing is r is equal to a, that is we are making the object of this class. R dot first, that is we are calling the method of this class. We are providing the parameters as 10, 20. So that's what we will be getting as the result. Now see, we do have box with attributes, width and height and depth. Then we want to calculate the volume. So what we do? Class box. First of all, we are giving width is equal to 0, height is equal to 0, depth is equal to 0. All are public. It is because no underscore is there. Now, is it something like constructor wherein we are directly giving the value? No. We haven't yet returned the constructor. It is simple variable. Now, what we do is, we do have the volume method where we do have first is self. It is must. Then only it is considered as the class method. So self, comma width, height, depth. So what we do is self dot width is equal to width, self dot height is equal to height. It is going to take the parameter which is being passed here, that is this width, this height and this depth, and it is assigning class variables, that is self dot width, self dot height, self dot depth. And what is it doing? That is return width multiplied by height multiplied by depth. So how to make the object? That is R is equal to box and V is equal to R dot volume, and we are printing the volume. Now say string representation of the object. In Java, if you know, we do have two string method which represent the object in string format. The same thing is here. If we want to do, we should use the special method, that is underscore underscore str underscore underscore, and the parameter is self. So what we do, the definition depends on us. But let's see the example. Class box width, height, depth. But they are not the self dot width that we are defining inside this volume method. So what we do is we have passed three parameters, is width, height and depth. What we do, self dot width is equal to width, self dot height is equal to height, self dot depth is equal to depth. And now we want to represent these objects in the form of string. So we do have the method, that is underscore underscore str underscore underscore, and the parameter is self. So how do we want to represent the object that is being returned here? Here we have given it as str of self dot width string. We need to give the string, so it should be there in string format. So str of self dot width plus colon plus str of height, that is self dot height. Why are we doing this str? It is because this self dot width, self dot height, self dot depth, they are the integer values, and what we want is we want to have the string. So we need to use a function, that is str. Actually, we cannot say it is function, we can say it is type conversion. So how to make the object? That is equal to, very simple, R is equal to box and V is equal to R dot volume. Provide the parameters. Now the special methods we want to know for comparables. If we want to check whether two objects are equal or not, we should have the method, that is underscore underscore eq underscore underscore, and where the parameter must be self and other. Self is for current object and other is for second object. So these special methods are eq, that is equal, any that is not equal, gt that is greater than, ge that is greater than or equal to, and le that is less than or equal to. So if you want to check whether two objects are equal or not, whether two objects are not equal or not, whether two objects wherein they have the relation of greater than the other, less than the other, less than or equal the other, then we should use the special methods. They are underscore underscore eq underscore underscore, same way any, gt, ge, le, right? So what we can do is, here the definition of them says that self dot c. See, it depends on the properties which you want to see. Here only one property is there. So we are saying self dot c is equal to other dot c If you want to check for whether they are not equal, we can say it is self.c not equal other.c. Here also self.c is greater than other.c. Self.c is less than other.c. Other.c is less than or equal to self.c. So this way we have to use it. Now here, as we are only having C, should we consider only one property for comparables? No, it depends on your application. Suppose a class wherein, say box class is there, we do have width, height and depth. I want to consider the comparable something like for equality, I say that if width is equal to same, then I want to say the boxes are same or boxes are equal. Then I can use that. It depends on my implementation whether I only consider one value as equal, two values as equal or three values as equal for both the objects.